So yesterday we had the reports that Kevin Durant had met with Nets owner Joe Tsai over the weekend in London, of all places. But he reiterated his trade request and also made a bit of an ultimatum to the Nets owner, which is quite perplexing in my opinion. So he basically said that it's either choose between him or head coach Steve Nash and general manager Sean Marks. What was your first reaction to this news?
Never heard anything of this magnitude. So for a player to say, I want someone in the front office to be gone, it's quite extraordinary. I think we knew that the news had stalled, essentially, on him being traded. You brought up the fact that the Nets might be playing almost a bluff, saying, Durant, we're listening to offers, but mate, you're too valuable to us, so we're going to say no to them and, in a way, force him to play for the next season. But this is ensured he absolutely will get traded now. I think the Nets owner said, I'm going to do what's best for me and the Nets overall. And you asked for Steve Nash, I gave him that. I gave James Harden, you asked for, I gave him that. Durant is on a tear. That's something I've never quite seen. And Durant has certainly been a challenger of LeBron James. You know, I'm quite sensitive to anyone that is LeBron James, comes up against LeBron James. And it brought me back to a quote a few years ago. That said, I think Durant, whether second year in Golden State, they asked him about possibly even joining LeBron James a year after in the Lakers. And I'll read a quote to you. The Golden State Warriors star told Bleacher Report that it will be hard for the Los Angeles Lakers to sign players to be teammates of James because of the toxic environment that comes with the territory. Now, that's stuff like that sticks with the people, non-worshippers like myself, because Durant, what he's created, and he wanted that power. I think a big reason why he went over to the Nets is they said you're not only going to be, obviously you're going to be the star on the court, but you will have a lot of say. And we know how famous the DeAndre Jordan over Jared Allen call was, the fact that him and Kyrie said we don't really need a coach. We'll have Steve Nash there, but we can be coaches, and all these off-season moves. So I think he's been off a little bit more than he can chew, and I think he's realised maybe he's not quite as easy as he made it out to see him the way with LeBron James. But this, to me, it's just his insured. He just said he's almost doubled down and said, "No, all right, I need to get out of here. It's stalled too much, and you're going to have to get me out of here. Otherwise, I'll just keep kicking up a fuss." In your opinion, can you compare it to anything you've ever seen before? Someone saying, I want the coach and the GM gone.
Yeah, not really. The biggest issue I had, first of all, was I can understand the Nash perspective, even though it's just stupid, the fact that KD and Kyrie basically dumped Kenny Atkinson and handpicked Steve Nash as their coach. So to ask him to be removed 2 years later when you've had so much uncertainty around the franchise in terms of Kyrie with his COVID thing, Harden coming in and then Harden getting traded, the whole situation is unfair on Steve Nash, but at the same time, I can understand why KD and, more importantly, I think other members of the Brooklyn Nets don't find him a great coach. You saw the clip of Cam Thomas after a Summer League game where Steve Nash's name was mentioned and he kind of scoffed at Steve Nash's name being mentioned. So I can understand that point of view, obviously apart from the fact that KD was the one that wanted Steve Nash in. Sean Marks is the weird one for me. Now, obviously there's different things happening behind the scenes that no one knows about, that we don't know about. But if you're Sean Marks, your primary role is to build a contending team, is it not? And from the outside looking in, I think he's done that. I think the Brooklyn Nets have a championship contending team. If every player just says, I'm going to play my role, I'm going to play consistently and perform to the best of my abilities, then I don't see why this team can't win the championship next season. And so, for Kevin Durant to lump Sean Marks alongside Steve Nash, I thought was really unfair. Because I can understand how Nash hasn't been doing his job. He's been outcoached in a couple of these playoff series. But for Sean Marks, looking from the outside in, his primary role is to build a contending team. I think he's achieved that. I think he's doing his job well. And I think there's a reason why Joe Tsai is like, yeah, no, I'm happy and I'm going to back the front office that I've put in place. Because I think Kevin Durant should back the front office that's been put in place as well. So for him to say that he doesn't like the direction of the team, like, what about it? It must be a cultural thing, because from a purely roster standpoint, this is a damn good team. Like, it's a damn great team on paper. And really, again, it's victim blaming from KD, where it's his issue. It's his issue. It's Kyrie Irving's issue. It's the players' issue that the Brooklyn Nets haven't got as far as they should have.